My name is Sarah, and I've spent the last 6 years building a brand design studio from a single laptop and a folding table in my apartment. Logos, visual identities, full-scale campaigns for restaurants, boutique hotels, tech startups. I've put my fingerprints on more businesses in this city than most people will ever realize, because that's how good design works. You don't notice it, you just feel it. But nothing I built ever cost me more than the work I did for free, for family, for a brother who decided I was only worth the hours I put in and not the chair I sat in. My brother texted me on a Tuesday afternoon. Not a call, a text. 3 lines. Sarah, Kayla thinks it would be better if you didn't come to the soft opening. Investors will be there, and we want to keep the energy tight. Hope you understand. I read it twice, then set my phone face down on my desk and stared at the wall. I had designed every single piece of his restaurant brand. The name, the logo, the color system, the menu layout, the signage mock-ups. The entire Instagram presence he'd used to court those investors in the first place. I had done it over 8 months, after hours, on weekends, while running my own agency and managing 3 paying clients. And I had done it because he was my brother, and I believed in what he was building. Hope you understand. I picked up my phone and typed back slowly. So, you chose optics over your own sister? The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, then nothing. Fine. I opened my design files and started reading through every contract, every license agreement, every usage term I had ever drafted. Because unlike most siblings who just send over a JPEG and say good luck, I had done everything through my studio. Properly. Professionally. With documentation. The way I did things for paying clients, because even then, some part of me knew that goodwill without paperwork is just a story you tell yourself. If I wasn't welcome in the room, my work wasn't going to be in the room either. If you'd seen our family from the outside 5 years ago, you would have thought we were the kind of people who had it figured out. Dad, a high school basketball coach in Brentwood, who everyone loved. Mom, a part-time dental hygienist who made everything look easy and kept a clean house. 2 kids. Me, the older one who got a design degree and went off to freelance. And my brother, the golden one who charmed every room he walked into and had been talking about opening a restaurant since he was 19. What you wouldn't have seen was the running tab. It started small. Can you make a flyer for my buddy's car wash fundraiser? Mom needs a new headshot for her LinkedIn. Can you just clean it up a little? That became. My brother needed a logo for his first attempt at a food truck that never got off the ground. Then a rebrand for the food truck concept, version 2. Then a full pitch deck when he started meeting with potential partners. Each time, I quoted him a family discount, meaning 0, because Mom would give me the look that said, "You have the skills, and he has the dream. So why would you make this hard?" I kept a folder on my desktop called Tyler Projects. By the time he found the right partner and secured a lease on a space in East Nashville, that folder had 47 separate files in it, representing roughly 300 hours of work billed at my standard rate of $95 an hour. Math that I never let myself actually do because the number would have made me too angry to keep going. The restaurant was called Embers, my name for it. I'd pitched him 6 options on a video call one night, and when I said Embers, he went quiet for a second and then said, "That's it. That's exactly it." The logo was a minimalist flame mark, warm amber tones bleeding into deep charcoal. The whole identity was cohesive and considered, and the kind of work I charged real clients $8,000 to $15,000 to produce. I filed the trademark application through Wren Studio LLC, my studio, my LLC, because I was the one who had designed it, and because filing it through a formal business entity was just how I operated. I had mentioned this to my brother when I sent him the brand guidelines document. He had replied with a thumbs up emoji. Not even a full sentence, a thumbs up. That should have been my first red flag. The second one came at a meeting I wasn't supposed to overhear. I had driven over to help my parents hang some new shelves, and through the kitchen wall I caught pieces of a phone call my mother was having with my brother. Something about the soft opening. Something about keeping the guest list curated. The word curated used about a family dinner made my stomach drop a little, but I told myself I was being paranoid. I was not being paranoid. 3 weeks before the opening, My brother and his business partner Kayla came over for Sunday dinner. Kayla was sharp and polished and had an MBA, and a way of steering every conversation that made you feel like you were the one who'd suggested the thing she'd already decided. Over my mother's pot roast, she explained their investor situation. 2 local hospitality groups. A silent partner who had backed 3 other successful spots in the city. People who were serious, she said, with a particular kind of emphasis that suggested most people in the room were not. My brother glanced at me once, quickly, then looked back at his plate. I designed the menu layout that was sitting at that same table. The linen-textured paper stock, the typeface pairing I had agonized over for 2 weeks because he had said he wanted it to feel elevated but warm, not pretentious. I had delivered 8 rounds of revisions without billing a single additional hour. After dinner, Kayla asked if she could see some of my portfolio work. I pulled up my website on my phone and handed it across the table. She scrolled through it with the expression of someone politely tolerating a middle school science fair. "Cute," she said finally. "Very local market." Then she handed my phone back and pivoted to asking my mother about the neighborhood. My dad laughed, trying to smooth it over. Sarah's always been the creative one. Very talented with the artsy stuff. Artsy stuff. That was the last Sunday dinner before the text. The night my brother told me not to come, I didn't call anyone. I made tea, sat at my kitchen table, and opened the Embers brand folder. I read through the usage license I had included with the brand guidelines document 8 months earlier. It was 2 pages, clean and straightforward. Usage rights for the Embers visual identity, including logo, color system, typography, and associated design assets, were granted to my brother's LLC pending formal licensing agreement. No formal licensing agreement had ever been signed. I had sent a draft. He had said, "Yeah, we'll get to that," which in hindsight was the sentence that explained everything. He had assumed the work was a gift. He had assumed my yes meant forever and unconditional, and yours no matter what you do to me. He had assumed wrong. I opened my laptop, pulled up the email thread where I had sent the licensing draft, and drafted a new message. Short. Professional. The same tone I used when a client missed a contract deadline or tried to scope creep without a change order. Tyler, as of this date, I am revoking the provisional usage license for all design assets created by Ren Studio LLC for the Embers restaurant brand. This includes the logo, wordmark, color palette, menu layouts, social media templates, and any other materials created under our informal arrangement. These assets remain the intellectual property of Ren Studio LLC. Please cease use immediately. If you would like to discuss a formal licensing agreement going forward, I'm available to schedule a call. I read it 3 times. Then I sent it. Then I emailed the trademark attorney I used for client work and asked her to send a formal cease and desist on my behalf, just to make sure the paper trail was airtight. Then I went to bed. The silence lasted exactly 18 hours. My mother called first. "Sarah, your brother got some kind of legal letter from a lawyer?" "What is going on?" she said, her voice doing the thing it did when she wanted to sound calm but wasn't. "Is this some kind of misunderstanding?" I told her it wasn't. "But you made that logo for him." She said it the way you'd say, "But I already paid for that, about something you'd bought and couldn't return." "I made it through my studio," I said. "There was never a signed agreement. There were never any terms. There was just me assuming family meant something, and him assuming my work was free forever, regardless of how he treated me." She went quiet. "Grace, that's not fair," she started. And then she said my name wrong, and I almost laughed. "Mom, my name is Sarah." More silence. "You know what I mean. Don't be dramatic. He has investors coming. This is his dream." "When is it my turn to have a dream?" I asked. "That the whole family rearranges itself around." She didn't have an answer for that. She asked me to think about what I was doing to this family. Then she said she had to go check something on the stove, which is what she always said when she wanted to end a conversation without ending it. My brother's call came that night. He didn't lead with an apology. He led with, "Do you understand what you're doing right now? We have a soft opening in 3 weeks. Our menu is printed. Our signage is ordered. Everything has the Embers mark on it." "I know," I said. "I designed it." "Sarah, come on. You know I appreciate everything you did." "Do I?" I asked. because the last message I got from you told me not to come to the opening because you wanted to keep the energy tight. Kayla thought. I stopped him right there. It doesn't matter what Kayla thought. You sent the text. You made the decision. And the decision was that your investors' first impression of you mattered more than your own sister being in the room. So now your investors can have their first impression of your beautiful brand, and we can have a conversation about what it costs. He exhaled the way he always did when he wanted to sound like the reasonable one. This is extortion. It's a licensing fee, I said. Standard industry rate for a full brand identity of this scope is between $10,000 and $20,000. I'm not asking for the high end. I'm asking for what's fair. Draw up a real contract, pay the studio rate, and maybe reconsider your guest list. He hung up. For the next 2 weeks, my phone became something I approached carefully, the way you approach a car that might have a wasp's nest in it. My mother sent long texts that started with "I'm not taking sides" and then very clearly took sides. My father called once, sounding tired, asking if there was any way to work this out before the opening. He said my name right, at least. He said, "You know your brother isn't great at these things, meaning feelings, meaning acknowledgement, meaning any of the basic courtesies that hold a family together." I know, I said. That's the problem, Dad. It's always been the problem. He went quiet in the way he went quiet when he agreed with something he wasn't ready to say out loud. Kayla sent me an email through my studio's contact form, subject line, regarding the Embers brand situation. It was 4 paragraphs of business language that amounted to, "We believe we have a fair use argument, and we'd like to discuss your demands." She CC'd someone named Brian, who I assumed was their attorney. I forwarded it to my trademark attorney, answered 2 client calls, ate lunch, and went on with my day. The soft opening was on a Friday night. I found out the venue, a renovated warehouse space on Gallatin Avenue with exposed brick and Edison bulb pendants, from Jen, who had seen it tagged in a Nashville food blogger's Instagram story. The same Instagram account my brother had grown to 4,000 followers using content templates I had built from scratch. I thought about staying home. I thought about it seriously. Poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my couch, and weighed the version of this story where I let the night happen and waited to see what came after. It would have been the quieter choice, the more contained one. But something in me wanted to see it, not to destroy anything. I had already done what I was going to do. I just wanted to witness the moment a room full of people encountered a brand they didn't know belonged to someone who wasn't invited. I put on a blazer, grabbed my keys, and drove to Gallatin Avenue. The space looked good from the outside. I'll give him that. The signage in the window had been swapped out at the last minute for a generic serif type that didn't match anything else. It looked like a different restaurant. The Instagram grid, which I checked from the parking lot, had gone quiet for 10 days, which, for a restaurant doing a soft launch, was essentially digital suicide. Inside, maybe 60 people milled around with small plates of charred vegetables and short rib sliders. Soft lighting, good music, the kind of opener that could have been impressive under different circumstances. A few people in what looked like business casual investor attire stood near the bar. My brother was with them, in a sport coat I'd never seen, laughing at something one of them said. My mother saw me first. She crossed the room in a direct line, the way she moved when she was trying to get somewhere before the situation got there first. "What are you doing here?" she said, low and tight. "I live in the city," I said. "I heard there was a soft opening. Sarah, tonight is not the night. I'm not here to make a scene, Mom. I just wanted to see how the place looked." She studied my face for a long moment, looking for the lie in it. I wasn't lying. I was calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. That particular kind of calm that only comes when you've already done the hard thing, and you're just watching the world catch up to it. My brother noticed me about 10 minutes later. He excused himself from the investors and walked over with his jaw set and his eyes doing the thing they did when he was trying to decide whether to be angry or strategic. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Why not?" I asked. "I didn't pull the lease. I didn't cancel the catering. I just withdrew my intellectual property. The building is still yours to stand in." Kayla appeared at his side like she'd been waiting in the wings. "This really isn't appropriate," she said. I turned to face her directly. "Do you know who designed the brand identity you launched this restaurant with?" I asked. Not rhetorically, genuinely asking. She blinked. Me, I said. Through my studio. On my own time. For 8 months. Because my brother asked me to, and I believed in this project. And then, 3 weeks ago, he texted me that I shouldn't come tonight because you wanted to keep the energy tight. So I withdrew my usage license, which I was legally entitled to do, and now here we are with serif placeholder signage in the window and a dead Instagram account 10 days before your grand opening. One of the investors, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses pushed up on her head, had drifted close enough to hear. She wasn't pretending otherwise. Kayla's voice dropped. You are making this about yourself at my partner's business launch. He made it about me, I said, when he chose his guest list. My brother stepped closer. Do you have any idea what this has cost us? Reprinting the menus, the sign company wanting to charge a rush fee to redo the window, our brand consultant trying to do in 2 weeks what took you 8 months. I know exactly what it cost you, I said. I've been running the numbers since the day you sent that text. I can show you the invoice if you want. Full studio rate, 312 hours, minus the goodwill discount I was going to give you because you're my brother. The number that's left is the number you should have just paid me in the first place, and then none of this would have happened. His mouth tightened. So, this is about money. It was never about money, I said. I have clients. I have a business. I'm not here with my hand out. This is about the fact that you used my skills for years, used my name and my work to build something real, and then decided I wasn't presentable enough for the version of your life you were performing tonight. That is not a misunderstanding. That's a choice. The investor woman with the reading glasses spoke then, and her voice was quiet, but everyone near us heard it. She asked my brother, "Is this the designer you mentioned? The one who built the original brand?" My brother said nothing. She looked at the placeholder sign in the window, then back at him. You replaced her work 10 days before your launch, she said, not as a question. The room had gone slightly still in the way rooms do when something real breaks through the surface of a social event. The food blogger near the charcuterie board had her phone tilted at an angle I recognized. My dad appeared from somewhere near the bar, his sport coat slightly rumpled, the way he always looked when he'd been standing in one place too long, hoping something would resolve itself. He put a hand briefly on my shoulder. Then he dropped it. He looked at my brother for a long moment. Your sister did right by you for a long time, he said. Low enough that most people didn't hear it. But I did. And my brother did. Kayla started to say something, and my father just looked at her. Not unkindly, but with a kind of finality that I'd seen him use exactly once before, when a referee made a call he disagreed with so profoundly that everyone in the gym felt it. He didn't argue. He just looked until the other person understood. She stopped talking. I turned to my brother then. I want you to hear me say one thing, I said. Not for the room. For you. He looked at me. He looked young suddenly. Younger than his actual age, which was 26. Younger than the person he'd been performing all evening. I love you, I said. And I spent years acting like that meant I didn't get to have boundaries. Like love was the reason to say yes to everything and ask nothing back. Mom and Dad always said you had the dream, and I had the skills, and I accepted that framing for so long I forgot it was a choice. It wasn't a law, it was a habit, and I'm done with that habit. He swallowed. Sarah, you've been using the brand for 3 weeks without a license, I said. My attorney has documented it. If you want to keep using it, we sign an actual agreement, at an actual rate, and you treat me like a vendor you respect, instead of a resource you take for granted. If you want to build something new, I'll refer you to 2 other studios I trust. Either way, I'm not the safety net anymore. I stopped financing your erasure of me, I added. That's not cruelty. That's just the first honest contract we've ever had. The investor woman asked me, quietly, if I had a card. I opened my bag and gave her one. Outside, the evening air smelled like someone's backyard grill 2 blocks over. I sat on the hood of my car and let the adrenaline drain out through my palms and into the metal. My hands shook a little, the way they did after a hard client presentation, the kind where you knew the room and had the preparation but still had to fight for every inch. Jen texted, "Are you okay? I saw you go in." I typed back, "Weirdly, yes." It's like I finally said the part I always edited out, she sent back. What happened in there? I told her the short version. She replied, the investor asked for your card? Sarah. Sarah, that is your villain arc becoming a hero arc in real time. I laughed, actually laughed, sitting on the hood of my car in the dark. The door opened behind me. I heard heels on the pavement and braced. It was my mother. She had her arms crossed in the way that meant she was cold and also not sure what she was doing. She stopped a few feet away. You embarrassed him? She said. But it came out flat, like she was reciting a line she'd rehearsed and didn't fully believe anymore. I didn't embarrass him, I said. He embarrassed himself when he decided his investor's impression was worth more than his own sister's seat at the table he built with her work. She didn't answer right away. She looked out at the street. A couple walked by with a dog. Normal Friday night. You know how your brother is, she said finally. He doesn't think things through. He gets excited. He lets other people make decisions for him. That has never been my responsibility to absorb, I said. I was always the one who thought things through. I was always the one who cleaned up after the not thinking things through. That's not a personality difference, Mom. That's a pattern you built. She flinched slightly. I hadn't meant it to land hard, but I hadn't tried to soften it either. I just don't understand why you couldn't let this one thing be his, she said. Just this one thing. I let everything be his, I said. For years. That's the whole point. She was quiet for a long moment. In the quiet, I could hear the music from inside the restaurant, something low and jazzy, chosen off a playlist I had put together as part of the brand guidelines document under the heading Sonic Identity. My brother had asked me to think about what the restaurant should sound like. I had spent an hour on it. She finally said, I didn't know about the contracts. I didn't know the trademark was in your name. I know, I said. That's part of the problem. Nobody asked. Nobody thought to ask. It was just assumed that what I built belonged to whoever I built it for. Because that's how things have always worked in this family. She put her hand on her own arm, rubbing it like she was trying to warm herself up. Do you think this can be fixed? She asked. Between you and your brother, I don't know, I said honestly. That depends on whether he wants to fix it or just wants things to go back to the way they were. Those aren't the same thing. She nodded once, slowly, in the way people nod when they're accepting information they'd rather not. A few minutes later, the door opened again and my brother came out alone. No, Kayla. He had loosened his collar, and he looked like someone who had just come out of a meeting he hadn't prepared enough for. He stood near the door for a second, then came and stood near the car. Not too close. 3 or 4 feet of honest space between us. Patricia Reed, he said. The investor who asked for your card. She told me I should be embarrassed. Not about the brand situation. About the fact that I had a designer this good in my own family, and I was too busy managing Kayla's nerves to treat you right. I didn't say anything. She wants to talk to you about a hotel project in Germantown, he said. A friend of hers is rebranding a boutique property. The irony of my brother delivering me a client referral from his own soft opening was not lost on me. I let it sit there without comment. He rubbed the back of his neck. I'm sorry I sent that text, he said. I should have called you. I shouldn't have let Kayla write it. You let her write it? He nodded. She drafted it. I sent it. That's still on me. I know that. It's not about the text, I said. The text was just the part I finally couldn't swallow anymore. It's about every time you said thanks with an emoji instead of a sentence. Every time you let Mom explain away my contribution as me just being helpful. Every time my name didn't make it into the story you told about yourself. He was quiet for long enough that I knew he was actually thinking, and not just waiting for his turn to speak. I got used to you being there, he said. Like you were just part of the system. And I know that's not an excuse. I didn't realize how much I'd stopped seeing you. Like, actually seeing you. That's honest, I said. He looked at me. Is it too late? I thought about the brand folder on my desktop. The 47 files, the 312 hours. The document titled Sonic Identity that even now was playing through the speakers inside and guiding how his guests were feeling without a single person in the room knowing I'd had anything to do with it. It's not too late, I said. But it requires a real contract, from both of us. Not just the business paperwork. I mean you being consistent. You showing up for me the way I've shown up for you. You telling Kayla and Mom and whoever else that I exist and I matter when I'm not in the room. He nodded. And therapy, I said. For yourself. Not because you're broken. Because you've spent your whole life having someone else smooth the path and you need to learn what happens when that person isn't there. That's not a punishment. That's just the work. He laughed a little, tight and uncomfortable. You sound like my college advisor. Your college advisor was probably right, I said. We didn't hug. We stood there in the parking lot of his restaurant, two people who had been orbiting each other for years from assigned positions, trying to figure out what it looked like to start over with a more honest map. Inside, the music played on. My sonic identity, his restaurant. One of those things that could eventually belong to both of us if we did the work right. 3 weeks later, I had a video call with Patricia Reed's contact about the Germantown Hotel project. The scope was significant. The timeline was real. The budget was the kind that makes your whole body feel different when the number gets confirmed in writing. I signed the contract through Ren Studio LLC, like I always did. My name on the first line. No ambiguity, no assumptions, no thumbs up emoji, standing in for an actual agreement. My brother texted me the morning of his official grand opening. Not the soft launch, the real one. The one with the Reviewed Embers logo back in the window, the Instagram grid live again. The menus reprinted correctly after we had signed a 1-year licensing agreement at a rate that felt fair to both of us. He texted a photo of the room before the first guests arrived. Warm light, every element of the visual identity in its right place, the logo mark centered above the bar in brushed brass. He wrote, "This is yours too. Thank you for making it worth saving." I stared at that for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Good luck tonight. I hope it's everything you worked for." I meant it. All of it. Even the complicated parts. Even the years I wished I could trade in for a simpler version of us. Because the truth is, I don't want a different family. I want the one I have to finally understand what it costs to have someone like me in their corner. Not what it costs them. What it costs me. That spreadsheet on my desktop still exists. I haven't deleted it, but I renamed it. Not family favors unpaid anymore. I renamed it What I'm Worth. And I'm learning, slowly, methodically, the way I approach everything I do, to build my life around that number, instead of around the people who never wanted to look at it. I don't know what you would have done in my place. Maybe you'd have swallowed the text and shown up to the party anyway, smiled for the photos, and told yourself next time would be different. I've done that. I did it for years. I know how that ends. What I can tell you is that the moment I stopped editing myself down to fit their comfort, the room finally had to reckon with how much space I actually take up. And that feeling, of being fully present in your own story, is worth every uncomfortable phone call and every night you spend wondering if you went too far. You didn't go too far. You just finally went far enough. But I'm curious. At what point would you have drawn the line? When does keeping the peace stop being love and start being self-erasure? Tell me where you're watching from. And tell me what you think. Because I have a feeling I'm not the only one who's been running that particular kind of unpaid tab for way too long.